Hi, Tim. What is DevSecOps, and could you tell how does this apply to databases and database security?
Yeah, so DevSecOps is really a culture change for most companies. A lot of companies have been doing DevOps, building DevOps environments where they combine development and operations, and security has been the missing link. So now they're adding in the security portion. So that's creating this DevSecOps wave for most companies. So it's really like a culture shift within companies, but it's giving them an opportunity to inflict security throughout their development lifecycle.
And how does this apply to databases? Let's say I'm a DBA. I mean, what all should I do to follow these DevSecOps principles?
Yeah, for DBAs in general, so developers are mainly pushing down requirements to the DBA team, right? And what happens with that is the DBAs are a recipient of new code changes that they have to deploy, and a lot of times there's a lot of mistakes within that. So they're breaching security when they push down the code changes because the code changes are happening so fast.
And establishing security baseline is pretty important. Could you please pass some recommendations around that?
Yeah, I always preach about the security baseline that is really critical in the environment. Um, the security baseline should not only be implemented, but it should actually be utilized at each stage of the process as well, right? And that's going to include various things. It's going to include your database policies, your database security policies, your application security policies, and it also needs to include your company's internal security policies, things that drive the network security as well. So incorporating all of those into the baseline, and then you can use that baseline to test at various stages of the process.
So typically, right, people doesn't have this baseline or security policy at database level at many companies, in fintech companies, some healthcare companies do this mandatorily, but other companies, they ignore this, right? Like, what do you say about this?
Yeah, so a lot of times I think they ignore it for one reason is because they think it's something complicated, right? The baseline does not have to be complicated. It can be very simple and just have a few items in it, but it has to be something that's actually used. So that's the key, is utilizing whatever you have to enforce your security rules within the baseline.
And if you take CIS compliance, right, this framework has around maybe 90 or 90 plus checks. And, including all of them in the baseline is difficult for most people, right? Like, what do you recommend in those cases, like custom baselines with limited checks?
Yeah, definitely. So the CIS benchmark is very important, and a lot of people don't even know that it's there. So one, I would suggest doing research to make sure that companies know about the CIS benchmark for one, right? And then incorporate the key things that will help with your internal policies. Start with those first, going after things around the actual password control, things that will secure the database basically from the outside, keeping attackers out of the database. Start at that level before you get internally and go after the other features of the CIS benchmark. But that's definitely a guide that should be used.
Yeah, because, implementing all the 90 checks might not be feasible for a lot of
Yeah.
companies out there because they think these are too many things. So
Mm.
maybe, having at least like 20 or 30 important checks. Do you recommend that for all the companies?
Yeah, I would. So like, if you do 20 or 30, that would be great because 90 is just too much. It's too overwhelming. And you
Yeah.
want to make sure that you implement checks that you're actually going to be reviewing on a regular basis. So if you implement all 90, there's no way you're going to go back on a regular basis and review all those checks. So start with a small subset of those, implement that, put together a timeline in which you are actually reviewing those checks, like on a regular basis, whether it's on a weekly basis or monthly basis, and then start from there. And then you can build on it. You can add additional checks as time goes on.
Yeah, that's a good point because reviewing those 90 checks on 100+ servers is a Herculean task, and most
Right.
people are going to just ignore those.